can clap your hands.
Good afternoon.
I'm sure all the Arsenal fans would want to know how much ammunition are you going to give Arsène Wenger to fire.
It'll be enough.
Arsène wanted certain players to come in, and meanwhile he wasn't really the manager yet.
I went a few times to watch Keane play, and I asked after the game, who is this guy?
Patrick was top of his list.
He was telling me that he was on his way to Arsenal, and I said, listen, you're going anywhere, I'll follow you.
He was going to join Ajax, and in fact I think Bayern Munich were also in for him at the time.
I spent 3 days in Amsterdam.
So we had hijack it.
His agents called me, tell him to take the plane to fly to London.
We were breaking the mould. We had to rely on Arsene's judgment.
Adding a continental touch to Arsenal's never say die style is what Wenger is promising.
Quand je suis venu, je veux dire, il y a tout ce qu'il faut pour être un grand club. Je veux dire, ils ont un public qui est fabuleux.
I believe he has a great future.
At the time, English players were dominant. It was a risk, yes, when we bought foreign players.
He knew what I was missing to go to the top.
We weren't used to this at Arsenal. We were very British. It was like, who are all these French guys?
Steve Bold turned around with his tray full of beers. I just remember Patrick Vieira square.
He was special. How they see Milan got rid of him.
Quite literally unbeatable.
Captain of the Invincibles.
You don't get a better legacy than that.
It was one of the greatest bargains in the history of Premier League transfers. Patrick Vieira, £3.5 million.
He should have a statue, in my opinion.
Everybody realised that guy could change the destiny of Arsenal Football Club.
The rest is history.
Cannes at the time had one of the best academies in the country. I mean, Zidane is obviously the other outstanding one to come out of there. And for him to start at 17, for a team like Cannes, who at that time was playing top 7, top 8 in France, and yet he was the best player on that team, pretty much. For us, in France, he was very, very highly rated.
I was coaching Monaco, and it was an end-of-season game. We played a kind of League Cup at the end of the season. He played with Cannes, and I asked after the game, who is this guy? He won the challenges. He dominated the midfield. After the game, I said to my assistant, I've seen a great player today.
He was tall, he was strong, he was so determined, he was hard on people, but he could move the ball so well. He had everything. There was no doubt he was destined for great things.
I went a few times to watch Keane play. He had that presence, that he was quite complete player defensively and offensively. It was always difficult to buy the players from Cannes to Monaco. And I thought I would try to get him to come to Monaco.
He was the next big thing. That's why AC Milan, who had a long history of obviously French players within their squad, signed him so young.
He moved straight away to Milan, so that was the level above. But at the time, Milan was one of the dominating teams in Europe, so he went straight, without any intermediate step, straight away to the top clubs.
There's two ways to go to Italy at this time. Or like me as a champion, you know, you play already on a big club, and after you have the second wave from French players coming very young, very successful, like Patrick or Thierry Henry as the same with Juventus. And it's tough, because Italy, they don't care about you if you are a young player. And you don't have so many chances to play. And Italy is a tough time. Even when you play, it's a tough time.
Italy and this Milan team at the time was maybe not the right call for him. Him hardly playing there kind of slowed everything down, and we're like, okay, maybe he was not as good as we thought.
It was important for me to make the move. I knew that I had a chance to go to the World Cup '98 in France. So it was important for me to find a team, find a club where I can go and play week in and week out.
Rioch's departure, only just before the season starts, is a shock to say the least.
Angry fans claim the soul has been ripped out of the Arsenal.
It was perhaps a slight breakdown in communication between him and the board, I think, was a factor.
We've got to get on with it. Well, that's all I can say, really.
To be sacked that near to the season, you know, is a shock to all the lads.
Big club like Arsenal, we ain't got a manager. It was just who's going to take over.
If I'm honest, it wasn't a surprise. When Bruce came, the size of Arsenal didn't seem to fit him. But then, you know, you're going into a season without a manager and it's just weird and it's not the Arsenal way.
There's still a lot of turbulence at the club. Stuart Houston stepping in as a kind of caretaker. That lasted about a month. It was completely chaotic.
It was very delicate, I can remember well. We knew that Bruce Rioch was going to leave, and we also knew that Arsène Wenger was going to arrive.
It was a difficult moment because I didn't know when Nagoya will find a manager to replace me. We were fighting for the championship with Nagoya, so it was a lot of tension there. At the end, they found Carlos Queiroz, who was in New York, to replace me, and they let me go on the 1st of October. I was manager of a club and was not capable to be there. Imagine that situation today is untenable. To a club like Arsenal, today, starting the season without the manager is basically impossible.
Then we get told that the saviour for all this chaos and scandal and mayhem is a bloke we've never heard of in a league we had barely noticed. None of it made sense.
The initial favourite for the job was Johan Cruyff, but the new front-runner is now Arsène Wenger, who's in charge of the Japanese club Grampus 8 and was recently touted as the FA's technical director.
I can't comment on the name or the nationality of the intended incumbent, I'm afraid. And when we can announce his name, we will do it.
I've been told he's a very good coach. He's certainly got the respect of a lot of top internationals. He'd be very welcome at Highbury.
Is it a risk?
I think appointing any manager is somewhat of a risk, but it's a calculated one.
Austin, this way, please. This thing.
I remember when David Dein came in and had a meeting with us and said we're bringing in a man called Arsène Wenger. It was like, wow, unbelievable. So far ahead of his time, it was scary.
I'm pretty sure the Daily Mirror headline, like most papers, was, "Who is Arsène Wenger?"
Arsène who?
It was Arsène who?
We had no idea about what he was like, or what he even looked like, you know, because when we first saw him, we were like, he looks like a school teacher.
Wenger came into a very hostile atmosphere. Players going, who is this guy? What are we doing?
Good afternoon.
When I look at it today, 96, to appoint me, they were quite crazy. There was no history of success of any foreign manager in England. So I was not destabilized by the fact that people didn't know me. What you want in life is the chance to show that you have the ability to do your job.
We couldn't get him in till October because he was under contract at Grampus 8 in Japan. But of course we knew in the summer that he was going to become our manager. So we had to prepare the team for him.
So when the Milan thing doesn't work out, there's literally half of Europe who are queuing up for him.
The options was Ajax. I spent 3 days in Amsterdam.
In that Ajax generation of the mid-90s would have been a perfect match. Patrick going to join that Seedorf, Kluivert generation would have been something very special.
His agents called me and said, Patrick Vieira is moving to Amsterdam. And I said, no, where is he? And they told me, he's in Amsterdam, he will sign tomorrow morning the contract. I said to them, tell him to take the plane to fly to London. I said to David Dein, look, we have to make a deal very quickly because the price is fixed from Milan to leave the club.
Meeting the players for the first time, Arsène Wenger visited Arsenal's London Colney training ground and liked what he saw.
My first impression is very good. The spirit of the team is very high.
But until the reins are handed over next week, Arsenal's manager in waiting is keeping a lowish profile.
I'm sure all the Arsenal fans would want to know how much ammunition are you going to give Arsène Wenger to fire.
It'll be enough to hopefully get the success that we all want so badly.
Arsène wanted certain players to come in, and meanwhile he wasn't really the manager yet, so it was all a little bit under the radar screen.
I had a conversation with Arsène because, of course, when I was playing for AC Milan, I spent majority of the time in the stand. So I met Arsène because he was there watching the team play, and we spoke a couple of times, and he was telling me that he was on his way to Arsenal and what I thought about it. And I said, listen, You're going anywhere, I'll follow you.
Arsène has an encyclopedic knowledge of players from around the world, but because he was in France for most of his early career as a manager, he was well versed in all the French players. So that gave him a bit of an edge on the market. Patrick was top of his list.
We weren't used to this at Arsenal. We were very British, you know. This was the famous Arsenal back five, led by Tony Adams, the governor. It was like, who are all these French guys? But within about 3 seconds of watching them, it was pretty clear they were fantastic footballers, and that Wenger, with his intimate knowledge from Monaco of the French league, had just worked out where all these untapped, brilliant players were that he could get for Arsenal, which nobody had really picked up on.
We were breaking the mould. You know, we had to rely on Arsene's judgment.
Arsène Wenger was the key here. If he had managed Real Madrid, Patrick would have played for Real Madrid. If he had managed Barcelona or Bayern Munich, he would have gone there. And if he had managed Monaco again, or PSG or Marseille at the time, he would have gone home to France. It was Arsène that sold him this incredible destiny that he had. Come with me and I would make you one of the greatest midfielders in history.
What really made the difference is the fact that he knew me quite really well. He followed me through my career in the youth at Cannes. He knew what I was missing to go to the top. It was important for me to have a coach who will give me time to develop myself, to be patient with me, and to help me to grow, and Arsène was the main man for that.
He was going to join Ajax, and in fact I think Bayern Munich were also in for him at the time, so we had hijacked it. And it was rather fortunate because I happened to be president of the G14 group of clubs, which is 18, I guess, of the most glamorous clubs in Europe at the time. So I was sitting at the same table with the president of AC Milan and all the others. So I remember ringing up my friend at AC Milan, Umberto Gandini, and saying, Umberto, we want Patrick. And I went over there and made sure we did the deal.
Adding a continental touch to Arsenal's never say die style is what Wenger is promising.
Quand je suis venu, je veux dire, il y a tout ce qu'il faut pour être un grand club. Je veux dire, ils ont un public qui est fabuleux. Je veux dire, il y a des terrains où on peut s'entraîner. Il y a un entourage qui est très bien. Je veux dire, ils ont des très bonnes structures.
I think it was a big chance for Arsenal to take this player because I believe he has a great future.
He knew he had to get those kind of players that will know his philosophy and will help him implement that philosophy on the pitch at Arsenal. If you want to change the mentality at Arsenal, you don't go and sign English players.
It didn't have as big an effect as when we signed Dennis Bergkamp. That was like a massive statement. When Patrick signed, these are players that nobody's really heard of.
I was happy to have the chance to sign him. And overall, Patrick Vieira landed at Arsenal, but nobody knew that I was the manager. So at the start, he didn't play.
So actually Remy Gard came in at the same time. Remy was an accomplished player, but also I think to give Patrick comfort that he wasn't alone, he wasn't the only French guy in the dressing room. So, and I think that worked well. Remy was a little bit more of a mature player than Patrick.
Remy was great for Patrick because Remy spoke English, Remy was so smart, loved everything about London, would go to museums, go and take Patrick along with him. And Patrick was so young, all of this was new to him.
They were not speaking well English at the start and they had to adapt. Gard is a very intelligent person. Patrick Vieira will know better than I do, but it was certainly important to him.
I arrived at Arsenal before Arsène, so it was quite really challenging to understand the language and to really understand the culture. It was really good that Remy Gard was with me at the time because he was a really, really big help for me. It was challenging at the beginning.
He couldn't speak English and it was up to me and my best A-level French to make sure he settled down. After a couple of weeks, I went down to the dressing room. I said, Patrick, est-ce que tu peux dire quelque chose en anglais? Can you speak something in English? He said, oui, Monsieur Dein. Yes, Mr. Dein. I said, qu'est-ce que tu peux dire? What can you say? He looked at me and he said, Tottenham are magnifique, Patrick. Fantastic, Patrick. I said, qui te dit ça? Who told you that? He said, Ray Parler. So Ray was giving him English lessons.
Ray Parler is the last who could help for the language barrier.
If Ray's got into Patrick's head to try and teach him English, he was set up by us lot, you know, because we were like, yeah, go on, Ray, tell him some stuff. I remember him talking about beans on toast, and Patrick's like, what do you mean? He went, beans on toast, you've hit the beans on toast. And it's like, the post.
I have to be honest, the English players make it really easy for me as well. They've been helping me to find a way to express myself.
Arsène Wenger took the players to a health farm this week, but not exactly for a break. But he won't find the players complaining.
The training's very refreshing, very varied, it's different all the time. It's nice to have a change, really.
I want dynamic football made of movement. I think it needs a slow change, and every manager, I think, needs time to work.
At the time, English players were dominant and foreign players. You needed to adapt. It was a risk, yes, when we bought foreign players at the time. London had a huge advantage. It's easier to recruit people in London with international life, but it was a risk on the sporting side.
It was a completely different culture. I left Italy, AC Milan, where players came a couple of hours before training and really professional, looking after themselves quite really well, to Arsenal, where the game was seen in a different way.
Arsenal moved very quickly from the pre-Wenger years to what happened the day after he walked through the door. And you can basically describe that as the drinking days and the non-drinking days.
I remember seeing Patrick's face when we were out on one of our Tuesday clubs or whatever it was. Steve Bold turned around with his tray full of beers. There was about 20 pints of beer on it. And I just remember Patrick's face just going like that, just like looking at the amount of beer that was coming round. And he would just have like coffee.
This bunch of players, Adams, Bold, Seaman, Winterburn, Dixon, were the older part of the dressing room. They wanted the test during the game. These guys were ready for a fight. That was a tradition at the time. In England, they were convinced the English players were more equipped to deal with that. Patrick was not a big talker. When the match started, they realised that, come on, this guy is one of us.
When he first came, it was an eye-opener, a real eye-opener, because he brought a totally different way of not just playing football, but of being a footballer.
He believed in his own ability. He was quite a quiet assassin, if I'll call it. You know, he wasn't one of them Jack the lads. He just went out, got on with his game, done his job.
He got on the wrong side of me once. We'd be playing like an 8v8 or whatever, and every time the ball would come in from me, you know, and I'd go and claim it, and he'd always like come in and like nudge me or elbow me, and I got wound up. And then anyway, I took this cross. Next thing, I felt Patrick's elbow right on the side of my head there, and I just totally lost it. So I got the ball, and I got Patrick's head, and I landed with it, and I drew back to punch him, because I was like fuming, because he'd hit me on the side of my temple. And I was fuming, and instead of punching him, I just turned it to a flat fist like that, banged him on his head. He wouldn't speak to me for 2 weeks.
It was important for me to show how good I was. Arsène knew me really well, but nobody else knew me in England. So it was important for me from the first training to do well, because the impression will be important for me.
When I see Patrick straight away, he was a player. 6'4", bit dangly at the time, very young. You're sitting there thinking, how have AC Milan got rid of him? You know, he was special.
Everyone at Arsenal deflated and certainly affected by the mood of uncertainty following all the managerial mess they have found themselves in this season. Will this be Arsenal's night to put their problems behind them?
I think it's never easy for players when you arrive in the team and you are injured, but remember the games against Sheffield where I started on the bench and I came on, and the rest is history.
On the bench for Arsenal, Patrick Vieira. Be interesting to see if he comes on later tonight.
His first game, when we played at home against Sheffield Wednesday, and I think Ray Parlour got injured after about 30 minutes, and Patrick came on.
Well, Parlour presumably has got an injury. Huge applause. Arsenal's newest player, Patrick Vieira, a 20-year-old Frenchman.
Within 20 minutes, he blew the lights out. People could see, well, this is something unusual.
Straight away, he had a huge impact, and everybody realized that that guy could change the destiny of Arsenal Football Club.
He looked really good. He looked strong. He looked mobile. He could move at pace when he needed to, ferocious in the tackle. Looked like he might have a few anger management issues, but I was always fine with that. He just looked a really promising talent.
It was rather funny because people didn't know who Arsène Wenger was. After Patrick played a few games, Arsène, I remember saying to me, you know, people may not know who I am, but then I bring in good players.
Our destiny was linked together because Patrick Vieira gave me credit. They must have thought, well, we don't know Wenger, but If he brings a player like that, he must know something about the game. He opened the door indirectly for me to be accepted as a manager.
Vieira! Patrick Vieira is the hero of Highbury. That's Vieira! Absolutely fantastic! My word!
Patrick Vieira! The captain, fittingly, gets the goal that might make history.
He was majestic, he was imperious, he was strong, he had talent. He was not frightened of taking on players, going forward, brave in the tackle. The crowd took to him straight away.
He had another very important quality that you do not see a lot. His instant availability when the team won the ball. He did never hide. Even when he was marked, I've seen basically fights in the dressing room when the defender said, "We cannot give you the ball because you're marked. Don't care, give me the ball."
At the time, I was at the right place at the right time because of the experience that we had in that team. I think allowed the young players like myself to grow, to learn, and not to have so much pressure on my shoulder. The group of players at that time really allowed me to go under radar and to grow up slowly and to maximize my potential.
He just got across the pitch, do you know what I mean, so quickly. He had everything. He could pass a ball, he could win a ball, he could score a goal. He had the all-round package, and that was at the start, and then he just got better and better and become one of, I would say, one of the greatest midfield players to play in the Premier League, in my opinion.
Patrick Vieira was just an incredibly impressive person. There's an aura, there's a presence, there's a statement that he makes. What we lacked was a midfield general. We had the captain, Tony Adams, at the back, who was fantastic, but we didn't have someone that could boss the midfield, particularly when we played Manchester United, who were the dominant team in the Premier League, led by Roy Keane. Who could we get that could literally go toe-to-toe with Keane? Enter Patrick Vieira.
See out there. See out there. Come on, every week. Come on there. You're a nice guy.
It looks like he's already kicked off.
He was not scared of anybody. This guy is a man who you could throw into any battle and you could not intimidate him. It was an important part to wipe out the complex that Arsenal had with Man United. He was the one who said, "We are ready to fight with you, eye to eye."
Their battle was probably the greatest midfield rivalry I think we've ever seen in world football.
They wanted to be better than each other. Patrick certainly could look after himself.
He wanted to die for Arsenal Football Club. A Man United player wanted to die for Man United. So when these guys met, it was a real battle. It was not a fake battle, you know. It was a total battle.
Were you ever concerned he might leave?
Yes, at the end of every season. I had inside information being on G14 that Real Madrid coveted him, really wanted him. And I used to get nagged the end of every season. Please let us have Patrick, please let us have Patrick. And I had to make sure Patrick was not going to go. So at the end of every season, I used to have to follow him on holiday to Martinique, Guadeloupe, Senegal, right, Barbados. So I've got to thank Patrick for a few nice holidays.
They were quite literally unbeatable. The title and a place in history belongs to Arsenal.
Captain of the Invincibles, that doesn't get any better.
He was at the club nearly 9 years, during which time he won the FA Cup 4 times and the league title 3 times, including the Invincibles. You don't get a better legacy than that.
He should have a statue, in my opinion. You have Tony Adams and Henry and Bergkamp. People talk about them three. Should always talk about Patrick Vieira.
Patrick Vieira was the greatest midfield player we've ever had. And when you think about some of the others we've had, that's an incredible statement.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Overall, he will remain as the special player who led the club to a huge successful period, special human being for this club.
He was a successful team. The relationship on the field, off the field was brilliant. Arsène really managed to bring foreign players with the mentality of the British Premier League, and at the same time to mix those kind of flair, creativity of players like Dennis Bergkamp or Paul Merson. That was a really, really good period of Arsenal Football Club. I was really pleased to be part of that group.